You ever get that feeling when something's wrong, but everyone around you is pretending it's fine? That quiet kind of betrayal that doesn't scream, it smiles? That was my sister, Clara. Growing up, she was the golden one. The kind that knew how to tilt her head just right when asking for something, how to cry just enough to avoid blame, and how to look me dead in the eye while lying. But we were sisters. And for a while, I fooled myself into believing that counted for something. It started the day I brought Graham home. We'd only been dating 4 months, but there was this pull between us, an ease. Graham was quiet, thoughtful, a little bookish. Nothing like the loud, flashy guys Clara dated who treated attention like oxygen. When Graham met my family, my dad liked him instantly. My mom was polite. Clara smiled. Her gaze lingered too long. She laughed too loudly at his bad jokes. And every time I reached for his hand, she found a reason to interrupt. I should have known then. But I didn't want to seem paranoid. That's how Clara worked. She made you question yourself before you questioned her. A year later, Graham proposed. It was quiet, just us, a trail of flickering candles, a ring tucked in the pages of my favorite novel. I said yes with tears in my eyes. I thought I was getting everything I dreamed of. And for a brief, shining moment, it felt real. We set a wedding date, April 22nd. Clara offered to help with the planning. "I'll take the pressure off you," she said sweetly. "You can focus on the important stuff, like not turning into bridezilla." I laughed, thanked her, trusted her. Mistake number 1. The first signs were subtle. She'd forget to forward me vendor emails, missed calls, confusion about catering choices. And then, one day in February, she told me the venue had a scheduling conflict. April 22nd was out. We had to move the date to May 6th. I was upset, but Clara handled it. She sent new save-the-dates, called the guests, rearranged things. I barely had time to breathe between my job and last-minute fittings, so I let her. Mistake number 2. March 14th. I got a message from my college roommate, Allison. "Eleanor, are you okay? I saw the photos. I thought your wedding was in May." Photos? I froze. I opened Instagram. Clara had blocked me. But people forget mutual friends exist. Allison sent screenshots. Clara, in my dress, at my venue, kissing Graham in front of floral arches I'd chosen. The caption? "Mrs. Clara Whitmore, ring March 13th, 25, the happiest day of our lives." I couldn't breathe. I blinked, thinking maybe it was some styled shoot, some sick prank. Then I saw my mother's comment under the post. "We're so proud of you too. Eleanor will come around." I don't remember walking out of my apartment. I just remember the cold air hitting my face. My legs moved on instinct. I showed up at my parents' house like a ghost. My father looked ashamed the second he saw me. "I told them this wasn't right," he whispered. But she said, "Graham didn't love you. That he'd made a mistake." Clara appeared at the top of the stairs in a silk robe. Her hair was still curled. "Oh," she said, not even startled. "I guess the cat's out of the bag." She came downstairs like she'd just won something. "You always take the long way around, Ellie." But Graham and we just clicked. You can't force chemistry. I laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was insane. "You stole my fiancé. My wedding." "No," she said with a shrug. "I saved him from a mistake. And you from wasting years on someone who never loved you back." She looked smug, like she'd done me a favor. And Graham? That coward wasn't even there. I found out later he moved in with Clara the same day they got married. For 3 weeks, I disappeared from everyone. Grief is a strange thing. Betrayal's even stranger. It doesn't stab you once. It keeps twisting the knife every time you remember a moment that wasn't real. But pain? Pain has a way of sharpening your vision. And that's when I remembered something Clara said to me years ago, after a messy breakup. If you ever want to really ruin someone, don't break them. Just let them walk into their own disaster thinking they're in control. I used to think she was just being dramatic. Now I saw it for what it was, a blueprint. So I started digging. And, oh, the things I found. Graham hadn't just fallen for Clara. He'd been engaged before, to someone else. A woman named Serena Whitfield. Lawyer. Smart. Kind from what I gathered. They were together before he met me. But he never broke it off. He just ghosted her. Moved cities. Changed jobs. Reinvented himself as someone new. When he met me, he used my connections. My friends. My trust. And Clara? She knew. She had to know. She didn't just steal my fiancé. She chose to marry a man already bound to another woman, and pretended it was a prize. So no, I didn't plan to ruin the wedding. That part was already done. I planned to let her live in it. I reached out to Serena. Sent her a message. Then screenshots. Then proof. She didn't reply at first. But when she did, her response was 4 words. Tell me everything. Now. Clara thought I'd vanish. That I'd sulk in some apartment corner, licking my wounds. But I had no intention of disappearing. And I certainly wasn't done. Because sometimes, the best revenge isn't crashing the wedding. It's letting them get exactly what they wanted, only to watch it turn to ash, while they're still in the gown. And I was going to make sure everyone saw it happen. I'll say this about Serena Whitfield. She doesn't waste time. Within an hour of messaging her, she requested a call. Not a text. Not a DM. A direct, face-to-face video call. And when I answered, I found myself looking into the kind of eyes that had seen enough betrayal to spot it before it knocked. Her jaw was tight. Her voice clipped. I already knew he was engaged to someone after me. I didn't know it was his fiancée's sister. I nodded slowly, watching the fury rise just beneath her polished exterior. They got married last week, I said. Behind my back. Clara sent me a fake date. My whole family knew. Serena didn't blink. Send me everything you have. Photos, messages, timelines. I want a full picture before I decide how far I want to go. And she did. For 2 days, we swapped evidence like war generals. She still had the ring he gave her, the messages where he told her he was under pressure and just needed space. He never broke up, just disappeared. I shared the wedding photos, my old messages with him, even the guest list Clara had sent out without me on it. And then we met. In person. At a quiet coffee shop on a rainy Thursday. She was dressed sharp. Black blazer, leather boots, no makeup, no nonsense. I want them to feel it, Serena said, her hands wrapped around a plain coffee mug. Not just be exposed. I want them to suffer the exact shape of what they did. And that's when the idea clicked. I wasn't going to destroy their marriage. I was going to broadcast it, make it visible, permanent, etched into their perfect, curated little lives. And I had the perfect opportunity. Clara was throwing a 1-month anniversary celebration in our hometown. A lavish event, by invitation only, with the who's who of our old high school friends, family, and all the people she wanted to impress. Of course, I wasn't invited. But I didn't need an invitation. I needed access and a way to control the narrative. So, I booked a private event photographer. One that looked like a guest. Serena arranged for a discreet legal observer. And I, quiet little Eleanor, booked a booth across from the ballroom where the event was happening. From there, I watched the dominoes. Clara swept into the room in a silver gown that shimmered under the chandeliers. Graham beside her in a black suit, pretending he wasn't scanning the crowd like he owed someone money. I could see it already. His shoulders were tense. He wasn't smiling with his eyes. His grip on her hand was stiff, like the kind you use when holding something together that's trying to fall apart. Perfect. I waited until the room was full, until the toasts began, until Clara took the mic and said with a smirk, "Sometimes fate has a funny way of working out, doesn't it? I didn't steal anyone's man. I rescued him." Laughter. Applause. And then, the back door opened, and Serena walked in. She was in red. Not scarlet. Not burgundy. Red. Like blood. Like danger. Like the end of pretending. Heads turned. You could feel the air shift, like the oxygen had been sucked out. Clara's smile froze in place. Graham turned white. Serena didn't yell. She didn't scream or throw anything. She just walked, calmly, toward the couple. And when she reached the edge of the dance floor, she pulled out her phone. "Graham Thomas," she said, loud enough for the mic to catch it. "I just came to thank you for disappearing on me, ghosting me after a 4-year engagement, and for giving me the greatest revenge opportunity of my life." Clara tried to speak. Serena raised a hand. "I know this must be confusing," she continued. "So let me make it clear for the guests who may not know. This man," she pointed, "was engaged to me while courting her. And I'm here to give them their wedding gift. The truth." She turned to the projector screen. I gave the signal for my booth, and every photo popped up. Pictures of Graham and Serena together. His texts. Photos from my engagement with him. Dates overlapping. Lies unfolding. Silence. Then gasps. Then chaos. Clara screamed. Literally screamed. "Turn it off. Turn it off." But it was too late. The room had seen. The masks were off. Graham grabbed her wrist and hissed something, but Clara pulled away like he was toxic. Because now she knew he hadn't just cheated on me. He had cheated on her, too. Serena and I didn't stay. We didn't need to. We left them to answer for themselves, to scrape up the pieces of their pretty little lie and figure out how to survive it. And as we stepped outside, Serena looked at me and smiled. Not with triumph, but with relief. "Thank you," she said, "for letting the fire burn from the inside." That was the public revenge. But the private one? That was still coming. Because you see, Clara wasn't just guilty of betrayal. She had committed identity fraud. She'd used my name, my digital signature, to sign the floral contract, the venue, even parts of the dress financing, which meant legally she was me when she stole my wedding. And now I had every reason to press charges. But I waited. Let her stew in her own embarrassment. Let the wedding guests talk. Let the stories spread. Let her reputation decay slowly while I worked in silence. Then I did the final thing. I sent her a box. Inside was a flash drive, a note, and a copy of the police report I'd filed. The note said, "If you thought the wedding was dramatic, wait until court." And beneath it, "P.S. I kept the dress. After all, it was meant for me." Clara didn't respond to the box right away. But 3 days after I sent it, my phone rang. Not with a text. Not a voicemail. A call. I didn't answer. Let it go to voicemail. Her voice trembled on playback. Not from sorrow. Clara didn't do sorrow. But from something worse. Fear. "Eleanor, you don't want to do this. It was a mistake, okay? A stupid, selfish moment. But you're my sister. Please don't take this to court. We can fix this. Just call me back." I smiled, deleting the message. Because Clara wasn't sorry she did it. She was sorry she'd been caught. The thing about people like Clara is they're used to dancing around consequences. Apologizing just enough to keep the peace. Crying just enough to confuse the victim. But I was done playing her emotional escape hatch. And the law? It doesn't care about tears. My attorney, Andrea, was sharp, efficient, and almost disturbingly unbothered. "You have a paper trail," she said after reviewing the contracts. "This is open and shut." She forged my signature on 3 vendor agreements, I said. She opened a credit line in my name for the gown. And she told the venue manager I was indisposed, but gave her full consent. I have screenshots of the texts. Andrea nodded. "That's fraud. Identity theft. And potentially financial damages if any of those vendors attempt to bill you. We'll file a civil suit. If they push back, we escalate." And we did. Clara was served 2 weeks later. At work. In front of her new colleagues at the marketing agency she'd just started at. According to a mutual friend, she cried in the break room and then took a personal day. Graham? He didn't show up to court. Apparently, they weren't doing so well. Something about trust issues. Go figure. But Clara did. And when she walked into that courtroom, designer bag clutched to her ribs, eyes ringed with sleepless panic, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. The judge was clinical, uninterested in sibling drama. "Miss Hart, did you sign these contracts under your sister's name?" Clara fidgeted. I thought she wouldn't mind. That's not a legal defense. Her lawyer, a young man who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else, tried to claim emotional distress. Said Clara wasn't thinking clearly, that it was a heat-of-the-moment decision made under pressure from wedding vendors. Andrea, my lawyer, stood without blinking. Your Honor, the defendant forged multiple documents, signed financial agreements in my client's name, and coordinated an entire wedding under a stolen identity. This was not emotional distress. This was orchestrated theft wrapped in silk and glitter. The judge agreed. Clara was found liable,
Fined.
required to issue a public written apology, and forced to pay restitution on every single contract she had fraudulently signed. But here's the thing. The court victory wasn't the loud part. What came next? That was the thunder. Clara tried to salvage her image. Posted a vague story on Instagram. Sometimes people only hear the version of the story that benefits them. She hinted at a family misunderstanding, blamed the media, and begged people to respect her privacy. But people weren't buying it. One of the photographers from her fake wedding wrote a blog post, "The Bride Who Wasn't." That went viral. Anonymous interviews. Wedding forums lit up. Clara's name started trending on TikTok under the hashtag stolen wedding. Old classmates messaged me. Some apologized for believing her lies. Others just wanted the tea. I ignored them all. She tried getting a new job. But employers Googled her name and found headlines like, "Bride sued by sister after faking wedding identity. Real-life wedding sabotage ends in courtroom showdown." Turns out, PR and branding jobs are hard to land when you've publicly imploded your own brand. As for Graham, he ghosted her again. Packed his bags one night, left no note, just a message from a mutual friend that he'd gone back to New York to sort things out. He didn't reach out to me. Didn't dare. But Serena did. She sent me a bottle of champagne with a single sentence on the card. "Here's to women who burn bridges with purpose." And yet after everything, there was still one thread left. One last, quiet piece of revenge I hadn't pulled. My mother. She hadn't spoken to me since the wedding reveal. Hadn't reached out during the lawsuit. Not a text. Not a word. Until one morning, I got a handwritten letter. "Eleanor, I want to believe there's still love between us. What Clara did was awful. But she's still your sister. We only get one family. I hope one day you'll find a way to forgive her. Please come to dinner next Sunday. Love, Mom." I read it once. Then again. Let the words sit in my chest like lead. She didn't apologize. She didn't acknowledge what she did, how she stood by, watched it unfold, and did nothing. So I wrote back, "Mom, family isn't defined by blood. It's defined by who shows up when you're being buried alive. Clara made her choices. So did you. I'll break bread with people who didn't sell me out for a photo shoot. Best, Eleanor." And I never looked back. Clara's public image was in freefall.
No job.
No Graham. No sympathy. Just a growing internet trail of shame and a mounting legal debt she couldn't hide. But Clara's ego? That didn't die so easily. She was still Clara Hart, in her own head, a girl raised on compliments and comparisons. She could take a hit, but she couldn't take being irrelevant. So she did what desperate people do. She rebranded. I first heard about the podcast from a former friend who still followed her. Clara Unfiltered. It was called. The trailer dropped with soft piano music and an Instagram caption that read, "It's time I told my side.
Truth. Pain.
Family. Healing." I almost laughed. Episode 1 was titled, "The Sister I Loved, the Truth She Hated." She never said my name, but the whole thing was a masterpiece of emotional manipulation. "We all make mistakes," she whispered to her fake audience. But I never expected the person who once braided my hair at sleepovers to take me to court over a misunderstanding. It wasn't fraud, it was fear. I didn't know how to stop the wedding once it started. And he didn't love her. He loved me. No apology. No admission. Just soft-spoken blame disguised as victimhood. Clara was trying to turn herself into a brand again. The wronged woman. The misunderstood sister. The phoenix from ashes. And some people started buying it. The comments turned from hate to sympathy. You're so brave for speaking up. Family drama is complicated. Sisters fight, but it's love underneath. I watched quietly, waited, and then I reached for my last move. Her next guest was supposed to be a mystery woman from Graham's past. She teased it in stories, built hype, and when the episode dropped, it was Serena, but not how Clara expected. Because Serena didn't come to defend her. She came to destroy her, politely. I wasn't going to say yes, Serena said, her voice calm. But then Clara called me and said she wanted to clear the air for her audience. She asked me not to mention Eleanor, to focus on Graham. Said this was a safe space for women to support women.
She paused.
And I realized Clara hadn't learned a thing. Live on her own podcast, Clara tried to interrupt. Serena didn't flinch. Clara, this is what you do. You reframe everything as someone else's fault. You used Eleanor's name, her wedding, her fiancé, then blamed her for reacting. And now you're using me to scrub your image. Clara's voice cracked. That's not fair. You don't know. I know enough. I was engaged to Graham. You knew that. And you married him anyway. You didn't just betray Eleanor. You betrayed every woman who ever trusted you. There was silence. Then the sound of Serena leaving her mic. The episode ended mid-recording. It was the final blow. The comments turned again. But worse this time, because now Clara wasn't just messy. She was calculating. A user. A manipulator. She tried damage control. Serena twisted my words, she posted. That episode wasn't supposed to go that way. Nobody bought it. Her sponsor dropped her. The podcast disappeared within 48 hours. Her page went private. And for the first time in her life, Clara disappeared. Weeks passed. Quiet ones. The kind you only get after a storm when everything is still too soaked to move. And one morning, I found a letter in my mailbox. Handwritten. From Clara. Eleanor. I don't expect forgiveness. I just want you to know I'm done pretending. You won. You didn't scream. You didn't fight. But you ruined me more completely than any shouting match ever could. I have nothing left but silence now. And maybe that's what I needed all along. I'm leaving the city. Maybe the country. I don't know. I hope one day you'll find peace. Because I don't have it. Clara. I sat with that letter for a long time. I didn't cry. I didn't smile. I just let the weight of it settle in my bones. Because this wasn't victory. Not really. It was something colder. They say revenge is best served cold. I don't agree. I think the best revenge is when you don't serve it at all. You just let people walk into their own trap. You give them enough rope, enough silence, enough time, and they build the gallows themselves. I didn't have to ruin Clara. She ruined herself one lie at a time. All I did was light the truth and hold it steady until the shadows fell away.
So now?
I live quietly.
In peace.
The real kind. Not the one you fake for followers. I still have the dress she tried to steal. I had it altered. Fitted just for me. And when I wore it for a quiet photo shoot, alone, standing on a cliff near the water, I didn't smile for the camera. I just looked forward. Unflinching. Unapologetic.
Whole.
I never imagined I'd stand in the back of a wedding chapel wearing black. Not for mourning. Not for drama. But because the woman who should have been in white was already standing at the door beside me.
Sierra.
The real fiancée of Mason Langford. And the woman who had no idea that the man she loved was seconds away from saying, I do, to someone else, my sister. I had met Sierra 3 days before the wedding. She wasn't from our city. She was from 2 hours away. A client of mine had mentioned her name in passing. You know Mason Langford? His poor fiancée Sierra's been losing sleep. Something about him traveling more lately. Hope he's not cheating. My blood turned to ash in my veins. I knew that name. Mason Langford. The man who cheated on me with my own sister. The man marrying her on Sunday. But Sierra didn't know that. So I did what any woman scorned and reborn would do. I reached out. I told her everything. And to my shock, she cried, but not because she didn't believe me. Because she did. He always hides his phone, she whispered through the screen. But last week I saw a wedding invite on his desk. It was face down. I didn't recognize the name, Kendall, but the font was the same as the one I designed for our wedding. My stomach dropped. They were using the same font? Oh, he had no imagination. So we made a plan. Sierra would show up, uninvited. Just like I was meant to be. And I'd be there, just out of view, watching my revenge unfold like a bouquet dropped at the altar.
Kendall looked radiant that day.
I'll admit it. She had that classic bridal glow. White silk hugging her frame, soft curls cascading over her shoulders, and a bouquet of lilies I knew she only chose because they were my favorite. The sanctuary was packed with guests who thought this was just another perfect wedding. But they didn't know the truth. That the groom was living a double life. That the bride had stolen a man who wasn't even hers. That two women were about to ruin everything he ever pretended to love. The music swelled. The doors opened. Kendall walked down the aisle like a Disney princess on a power trip. And Mason smiled like a man who thought he'd gotten away with murder. I held my breath. Sierra clutched my hand. And then, the priest said, "If anyone here has reason this couple should not be wed, speak now, or forever hold your peace." Silence.
Beat.
Another beat, until the click of designer heels shattered the air like a gunshot. Sierra stepped into the aisle. Her face?
Calm.
Her tone?
Icy.
Her words? "I have a reason." Gasps filled the room. Kendall's mouth fell open. Mason's smile collapsed like a dying star. Sierra walked forward slowly, pulling something from her purse. A photo. It was the three of us, me, Mason, and Sierra, cropped from different images but layered perfectly together. In Sierra's hand, it looked like a poster for a true crime documentary. "This man proposed to me 6 months ago," she said clearly. "Our wedding was scheduled for next spring. He told me he was working weekends. Turns out he was planning this." She looked directly at Kendall. "And I'm not even the first." A murmur rippled through the pews. Kendall blinked. "What are you talking about?" Sierra didn't even flinch. "Ask your sister. Eleanor. She dated him before you. You remember her, right? The one you didn't invite." Kendall turned white. Mason grabbed Sierra's arm. "This is insane. You need to leave." "No," Sierra snapped. "You need to leave. In handcuffs." Then she pulled out the second bombshell, a folder with receipts. Plane tickets. Duplicate hotel bookings. Credit card charges for identical engagement rings. One to Sierra. One to Kendall. And then, finally, a message from Mason to his college buddy that read, "I'm gonna marry the hotter sister. Easier to manipulate. The other one's too smart." Kendall's bouquet hit the floor. She turned to Mason. "You told me Eleanor was a stalker," she whispered. "That she made it all up. That she was obsessed with you." His voice cracked. "Kendall, But she was already stepping away. Tears streaked down her face. The priest backed up, awkwardly mumbling, "Maybe we should postpone the vows." Sierra didn't leave yet. She turned to the audience and said, "If you're here to celebrate love, go home. If you're here to witness the fallout of a sociopath's fantasy wedding, please enjoy the show." And with that, she walked out. Kendall ran after her. Mason stood frozen, looking smaller than I'd ever seen him. That was when I stepped into the doorway. And for the first time in a year, he saw me again. His eyes widened. His mouth moved, but no words came out. I smiled, tilted my head, and mouthed, "Enjoy your marriage," to no one. Outside, Sierra lit a cigarette. She didn't even smoke. She just needed the ritual. Kendall sat on the curb sobbing, mascara smeared, shoes off. I stood a few feet away, not to gloat, just to witness the full circle. Kendall looked up at me and choked. "Why didn't you stop me?" I knelt beside her. "Because sometimes," I said softly, "people need to hear their own vows to realize they're marrying a lie." And then I stood, wiped invisible dust from my dress, and walked away, heels clicking in triumph, leaving behind two women who finally understood the price of betrayal. One had paid in tears, the other in shame. And the man? He lost us all. I never expected the final act to unfold with such brutal elegance. The moment Jenna walked down the aisle, dressed in ivory satin and a smug smile, I knew she had no idea her groom was moments away from ruin. There she was, radiant in appearance, rotted in character. Gripping a bouquet I suspected she'd copied from my old Pinterest board. Beside her, Mom sobbed into a laced handkerchief, dabbing fake tears from eyes too proud. Her golden daughters were marrying well. At least, that's what she believed. I waited at the back of the cathedral, hidden in plain sight. No spotlight. No aisle for me. The air was thick with self-congratulation. People whispered about Jenna's grace and her good fortune. No one knew about the real woman who was minutes from walking through those polished wooden doors, tearing their perfect lie open like wrapping paper on Christmas morning. I didn't have to say a single word. And that was the most beautiful part. If anyone here objects to this union, the officiant's voice cut through the silence like a match against kerosene.
I didn't flinch.
I didn't move. I only turned to the side as a second figure stepped into the church. She wasn't wearing white. She wore red. Powerfully. Deliberately. Savannah. The real fiancée. She walked slowly, heels clapping against the marble with every step, as if each was a countdown. People turned. Gasps rose like a wave. Jenna's smile faltered. But it was Michael's face that changed first. 1 second, confident groom. The next, a man watching his world crack open from the foundation. Savannah stopped 3 feet from the altar and pulled something from her clutch. A ring box. One I'd seen before. One that held my grandmother's diamond. The ring I told Michael I would have reset. The one Jenna insisted I must have misplaced. Savannah held it up. Funny thing, she said clearly, addressing the room. This ring was promised to me, until I got a call from someone who told me where it really came from, and who it was really for. She turned to Michael. Tell them, Michael. Or I will. Jenna whispered something, her head whipping between the two of them. I caught it. What is this? Savannah didn't wait. My name is Savannah. I've been with Michael for 4 years. He proposed to me 8 months ago. With that ring, we were planning to elope. Until someone started getting cold feet. I guess I know why now.
People gasped.
Michael stammered. Savannah, I was going to tell you.
When?
After your honeymoon? After you used my money to pay for the circus? The room was chaos now. Jenna looked at Michael like she'd just realized she was hugging a snake. You said it was custom-made for me. I can explain. No, I called out, stepping into the aisle at last. I think he's done enough talking. All eyes turned. I walked forward slowly. No rush. I'd waited long enough. Hello, Jenna, I said, as calmly as if I were offering her tea. Her face turned pale. Eleanor, what are you doing here? I smiled politely. Just watching my ring make its 4th appearance in this soap opera. Your ring. I turned to the crowd.
Yes.
It was my grandmother's. She gave it to me before she passed. Michael knew that. But it disappeared while we were still together, just after I told Jenna about it. And suddenly she's wearing it, until it magically reappears on Savannah's hand. I let that settle. Then I turned back to Jenna. You set me a fake wedding date, remember? Told me it was the 5th, when it was really the 12th. So I wouldn't come. Jenna's voice was shrill now. You're ruining everything.
No, Jenna.
You ruined it the day you started wearing dresses that didn't belong to you. The day you kissed my fiancé behind my back. The day you thought a lie could last forever. Michael turned to Savannah. Savannah, please. You don't understand. She stepped back. No, I do understand. You never intended to choose me. You just didn't want to lose either of us. You thought if one didn't show up, you could live with the lie. I was plan A. She pointed to Jenna, was plan B. Maybe even plan C. The crowd murmured again. Mom stood now, whispering, Jenna, say something. Fix this. But there was nothing left to fix. Savannah tossed the ring box at Michael's feet. Enjoy your perfect life. And then she walked out. No screaming. No drama. Just power. Michael turned to Jenna. I didn't mean for this to happen. Jenna backed away. You're disgusting. You're a liar. We lied, he said. And that's when she slapped him. Loud enough to echo. And then, like Savannah, she walked out too. But not before looking at me, eyes brimming with rage and shame. You planned this. I nodded.
No. You did.
I just made sure the audience showed up. Outside the church, everything was still. I stepped into the light, exhaling for the first time in what felt like years. No one clapped. No one cheered. It wasn't that kind of victory, but it was complete. Not because I humiliated them, but because I didn't have to speak over them anymore. Their lies screamed louder than I ever could. 3 weeks later, Jenna moved back in with Mom. Michael vanished off social media. Last I heard, Savannah sold the ring and used the cash for a solo trip to Morocco.
Me?
I finally got the apartment I wanted. The one with the little reading nook and lemon tree on the balcony. No drama. No deception. Just space to breathe. I still get texts from old family friends asking if what they heard was true. I just reply with, the truth always walks in. Eventually. And then I turn off my phone and smile.